बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम। अस्सलामु अलैकुम। पाकिस्तान इकनॉमिक सर्वे 21-22। इस वीडियो में हम डिस्कस करेंगे कि पाकिस्तान इकनॉमिक सर्वे, इसमें पाकिस्तानी इकोनॉमी के जो भी स्टैटिस्टिक्स हैं, डाटा है, इस वीडियो में प्रीवियस 6 ईयर्स का जो डाटा है उसका जो कंपैरिजन है वो आपके सामने पेश किया जाएगा। पाकिस्तान इकनॉमिक सर्वे 9 जून 22 को पेश किया गया। ग्रोथ और इन्वेस्टमेंट की सिचुएशन आपके सामने है। जीडीपी ग्रोथ रेट इस इकनॉमिक सर्वे के अकॉर्डिंग 5.97% है, जिसमें एग्रीकल्चर का ग्रोथ रेट 4.4%, इंडस्ट्रियल सेक्टर ग्रोथ रेट 7.19% एंड सर्विसेज सेक्टर ग्रोथ रेट शोड 6.19%। जी, ये आपके सामने प्रीवियस 6 ईयर्स का जो डाटा है इसको समराइज फॉर्म में, जैसा कि आपके सामने जीडीपी ग्रोथ रेट है, करंट जीडीपी ग्रोथ रेट 6% है, प्रीवियस ईयर ये 3.9% था और उससे पहले 2019-20 में कोविड के दौरान ये -0.4% था। इसी तरह से जीडीपी वॉल्यूम, एग्रीकल्चर, मैन्युफैक्चरिंग, कमोडिटी प्रोड्यूसिंग सेक्टर, सर्विसेज सेक्टर, कंस्ट्रक्शन एंड माइनिंग सेक्टर के जो ग्रोथ रेट्स हैं वो आपके सामने लेटेस्ट आपके सामने राइट साइड पे 20, 21 एंड 22। नेक्स्ट ग्रोथ रेट्स एट करंट मार्केट प्राइस परसेंटेज, टोटल इन्वेस्टमेंट, फिक्स्ड इन्वेस्टमेंट, पब्लिक इन्वेस्टमेंट, प्राइवेट, नेशनल सेविंग, फॉरेन सेविंग, जिनको आप कंपैरिजन के तौर पे डिस्कस कर सकते हैं, देख सकते हैं कि जैसा कि इसमें आपके सामने टोटल इन्वेस्टमेंट करंट ईयर इसमें कंपैरेटिवली इंक्रीज्ड है। परसेंटेज वाइज अगर हम बात करें 24.1% है, जो कि लास्ट टाइम 13.9% थी। एज परसेंटेज ऑफ जीडीपी की अगर हम बात करें तो टोटल इन्वेस्टमेंट करंट ईयर हमारी जो है वो 15.1% ऑफ जीडीपी है, जो जबकि ये पिछले साल 15.2% ऑफ जीडीपी थी। पब्लिक डेट्स की बात करें तो पब्लिक डेट्स 44,366 बिलियन, डोमेस्टिक डेट्स आर 28,076 बिलियन एंड एक्सटर्नल पब्लिक डेट्स आर 16,290 बिलियन। फिस्कल पॉलिसी सिचुएशन की अगर हम बात करें तो करंट बजट आपको पता है कि 9.5 ट्रिलियन रुपीस का जो है वो पेश किया गया, जिसमें टोटल रेवेन्यूज़, टैक्स रेवेन्यू 8.8%, 7.2% रिस्पेक्टिवली। इसी तरह से इसमें जो डिफेंस की परसेंटेजेस, टोटल डेवलपमेंट एक्सपेंडिचर्स का डाटा आपके सामने। क्लाइमेट चेंज की अगर हम बात करते हैं तो इसमें 1586.18 मिलियन जो है वो इस इकोनॉमिक सर्वे और करंट बजट के अकॉर्डिंग इसके लिए एडजस्ट किए गए हैं। ओवरऑल डेफिसिट की बात करें तो वो 3.8% है। टोटल पब्लिक डेट्स, टोटल डोमेस्टिक डेट्स, टोटल एक्सटर्नल डेट्स एंड लाइबिलिटीज़, and last one is the public debts as percentage of GDP, which is 71.5%. फिस्कल डेवलपमेंट की बात करें, रेवेन्यूज़ इंक्रीज्ड बाय 17.7%, मीन्स 5,874.2 billion, which is 8.8% of GDP. Domestic debts as percentage of GDP are 47.1%. External debts as percentage of GDP is 24.4%. Fiscal debt as percentage of GDP is 3.8%, which was 3.5% during last year. Real per capita growth rate is 14.14%. It is increased as compared to last year. Last year it was 13.35%. And now per capita income is 1,797.5 rupees, which is increased from last year 1,542.5 rupees. Money and credit market situation. Policy rate increased by cumulative 675 basic points during fiscal year 2022. Monetary assets M2 percentage is 4.6%. Domestic assets are 9.7%. Policy rate by State Bank is 13.7% and so on. Inflation situation increased is observed in all indicators. Consumer price index 11%, sensitive price index recorded 16.9% and wholesale price index recorded 22.9%. This is situation of inflation according to current Pakistan economic survey. CPI 11.04% increased from 8.62%. Next one is sensitive price index SPI 16.7%, WPI 23.6%, core inflation rate is 7.97%, food inflation is 11.6% and non-food inflation is 10.79%. Next one is capital market and corporate sector. Various commodities future contracts were 2.65 trillion. Capital market Pakistan Stock Exchange Index growth rate is minus 5.1%. Aggregate market capitalization decreased by 8.6%. Total market capitalization is 7,582.9 billion rupees. Total listed companies are 532 and Pakistan Stock Exchange 100 index is 42,420 points. Trade and payments exports increased by 27.6% during the fiscal year 2022. This is the data of previous 6 year about trade and payments. Exports growth, imports growth 27.8%, 39.0%. Trade deficit growth is 55.5%. Workers remittances growth is 7.6%. And at last, exchange rate percentage is 15.1% and terms of trade index is 65.45. Total external debts and liabilities $130.6 billion and data of previous 6 years is also given in a comparative form. Deficit in balance of payment recorded 28.7 billion rupees. Forex reserves during March were $14.9 billion. Next is major agriculture sector, growth rate 4.4%. Crop sector growth rate is 6.58%. Livestock growth rate is 3.26% and fishing sector growth rate showed 0.35%. This is data regarding agriculture sector. Growth rate is 4.4% and contribution of agriculture sector to the GDP of Pakistan is 22.7%. Total labor force employed in agriculture sector is 37.4%. And next data is given about major crops. Fertilizer offtake credit disbursed to agriculture sector is 958.3 billion rupees and agriculture sector disbursed credit 47 billion rupees. Forest area of Pakistan is 5.45% of total land area. Land for wildlife as percentage of total area is 12.3%. Manufacturing and mining sector is next one. Large sector manufacturing growth 10.4% growth rate during July March of fiscal year 2022. Industrial sector growth rate showed 7.2%, large scale 10.4%, and small scale manufacturing showed 8.9% growth rate. Share of industrial sector in the GDP of Pakistan is 19.1%, and total labor force engaged in in industrial sector is 25.4%, which is increased as compared to previous year 24.9%. Energy oil imported bill surged by 95.9%. Next one is services sector showed growth rate 6.2%, and labor force employed in services sector is 37.2%, and the share of services sector to the gross domestic product of Pakistan is 58.2%. Transport and communication projects worth $17 billion completed. Total road length is 500.8 thousand kilometer. High type roads are 372.8 thousand kilometer. Next is low type road. Growth rate is 5.4%. CNG stations are in Pakistan more than 3,000, near about 3,500. Total vehicle using CNG are about 3.8 million. Gross earning of Pakistan Railway is 43.7 billion rupees. Post offices are 9.6 thousand. Telephone, cellular, mobile phone subscribers are 191.7 million. And employees in transport and communication sector are 4.19%. Total investment in telecom sector is dollar 930.1 million. Population, labor force and employment situation is next slide. Estimated population according to Pakistan Economic Survey is 224.78 million. Urban population is 82.83 million, and rural population is 141.96 million. Today, population of Pakistan is 229.6 million. Data regarding population is here. Life expectancy near about 67.5 year. Labor force, total labor force of Pakistan is 71.76 million, and Pakistan is the labor rich country. Pakistan is at number 9 in the most uh, labor rich countries, in the list of labor rich countries. Employed labor force is 67.25 million, and unemployment rate is 6.3%. Social protection globally, 85 million more people fall. Crude birth rate per thousand person is 25.4. Total fertility rate is 3.3. Death rate is 6.6. Infant mortality rate is 58.5. Working population as percentage of total population is 30.4. Dependent population accordingly is 69.6%. Next one is education sector. Expenditures grew at 9.7%. Overall enrollment is 56.5 million students. Total teaching staff is 1.82 million. Primary school situation is there. Data available of previous 6 years. Middle schools, high schools, technical vocational institutes, and number of universities are 233. Literacy rate is 62.8%. Male literacy rate is higher as compared to female, and similarly, literacy rate of Punjab is comparatively higher as compared to other provinces. Expenditure on education as percentage of GDP is 1.8%, and allocation for higher education commission is 65 billion rupees. And government has allocated just 0.5% of its entire budget for education sector. Health and nutrition expenditures grew by 30%. Number of registered doctors are 266.4 thousand. Population per doctor is decreased from 921 to 862 as compared to previous year. Registered nurses, population per nurse, midwives, lady health visitor, number of hospitals are 1276. Dispensaries are 5.8 thousand. Rural health centers are 736. TB centers are 416, increased from 412 of last year. Basic health units are 5558. Population per bed is 1562, and expenditures on health as percentage of GDP are 1.2%, and government in current federal budget has allocated only 0.2%, 0.2.5% of its budget for health sector, which is not sufficient for health sector. 15th edition. Thank you. Allah Hafiz.